I can tell you exactly what will happen. They'll all close and never open again. It's not difficult. I mean, it's really, it's wait. Let's take the first principle. The first principle is if you're running an organization, do you want to close it completely, or do you want to keep it running at 20% or whatever, because and then build it back up again later? Because if you close it, how many businesses that close open again? Like zero, like zero, right? Because the people move on to different things. Now, what have we got here? This is naturalnews.com, which nobody is supposed to read because it's banned on most banned on most servers, right? It's a health website, but it's more than health because I know the person who runs it, and it's health related to politics. And the title of this article is Europe's Steel Plants to Close. This is 7 days ago, right? And they're all going to close. All of them in Europe are going to close, right? And this was decided. If you ask me personally, I think it was decided pre-COVID that this was going to happen. Let me give you the link here. So here's the article. Europe's top steel plants to close due to exorbitant rise in energy prices. Now, remember, I'm not watching the news or listening to the radio. I'm not even looking, okay? I'm not looking. I'm living in my little, as people describe, I'm living in my little happy bubble, far away from whatever else is happening in the world, okay? I might as well be living on the moon or on Mars or on some other distant planet in some other solar system, right? Because I, in my opinion, it's all going to crash, and it's all going to crash very quickly. And it's not the first time. So so Europe's top steel plants to close due to exorbitant rise in energy prices. It's all the domino effect, and it's all very, if you're smart and intelligent, then it's pretty easy to see where things go. Prices increase, people move. I mean, why did 300 to 400 years ago, why did so many people leave Europe? There was a lot of war, there was a lot of famine, and people were just forced to explore the world and search for other possibilities. And a lot of people moved to North America during that period of time. There was a lot of disruption, socially, economically, politically, even at that point in time. And we're going back to this is when Banska Bystrica was mines, right? We're going back to the days of the Fugger family and the Medici and other people at that time. And so the article that we're looking at is it's looking at German plants closing, right? So the article states that 2 plants are being partially closed. Well, everything. It's like you can't have a partial relationship, right? I mean, it's on or it's off. The light is on or off, right? It's not in the middle. Usually. So this is located in Bremen and Hamburg, and it also talks about Spain as well, closing one in weak market demand. Well, that's nonsense. And there's always demand for those types of products. And negative economic outlook. Oh yeah, they don't want to. There's no the looming threat of hyperinflation. That's the next paragraph. It talks about the looming threat of it's already here. We're already. I mean, I've watched I don't know about where you are, but I've watched the prices of basic foods just go straight up. You know, a jar of coffee was £5, right?
Mm.
When I moved here, it's now 7. Okay, jar of coffee's increased by like 30%. There's little um, healthy snack raw bars that I buy for my kids. That was £2 a packet when I moved here. It's now £3.
Mm.
Right. I mean that's a 50% rise in the cost of that. Um, if there's no factories producing raw materials, there can be no production of anything. You can't build houses,
Yeah.
right? You can't build cars. So the the basic necessity factory closing leads to, this is just the news from today, okay? This is just from today. The Pentagon, the American military wing, has halted production of its new fighter planes after not being able to source production of components.
Mm.
Right. So there you go. So that's just today in the news. So so we're not going to have new fighter planes. Well, maybe that's a good thing or bad thing. I don't know. But I mean, what else are we not going to have? We're not going to have rockets for exploration. We're not going to have materials for skyscrapers or big
Mm.
buildings, development of infrastructure, houses. I mean, how many more houses can be built if we can't source the raw materials necessary to build the houses? How are we going to it doesn't make any sense. I mean, my example is that if technology is getting better, and I think we can argue that processing chips for computers, as a basic example, are improving in their quality.
Mm.
If these things are getting better, how come other things are not working so well? Right? If we're really progressing with these elements. And in essence, what we're seeing is the de-industrialization of Europe due to the threat of financial collapse. Okay,
Mm.
so this is just from today. Okay, let me also read this from today. Um, I told I I told you everything was just the beginning. I told you 2 years ago this is just the beginning,
Mm.
right? There's going to be a huge domino effect of other elements, and people are going to argue that it's people are going to argue it's good because it's good for the climate, which is, well, what climate? You get a climate of massive unemployment, right? You know,
Mm.
um, when people can't work, they either move or they fight.
Mm.
Those are the two. Those are the two options. And fighting is, in essence, an element of criminality, right? You either make a decision within yourself. I can't
Mm.
live here, so I'll move somewhere else, or I need to live here, so I'm going to do whatever I can to survive, which leads to criminal activity, rise in crime, rise in theft. That's a good industry to be in. You know, private
Mm.
security or any kind of security right now is a massively increasing industry. We've got this is from the 7th of September. Massive global shutdowns are now underway for metal smelting operations. Iron will not be produced, copper will not be produced, nickel will not be produced,
Mm.
aluminium will not be produced, zinc will not be produced, and steel will not be produced globally. Now, in essence, what we're seeing is a reversal of what has happened over the last 100 years. Over the last 100 to 150 years, we have seen global expansion,
Mm.
construction, building, exploration, expansion. We are now, in the space of 10 years, 2020 to 2030, going to lose all of what's happened in the last 150 years. It's all going to contract within 10 years to basic minimal functions. Okay. Now, perhaps you've seen, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I don't know. There's videos of the smart cities of the future. And all the videos of the smart cities of the future that are being built by the organizations such as the World Economic Forum, if you notice, there are no cars. There are no cars. Yeah. Why there not going to be any cars? Because no cars are going to be built. You won't be able to buy it if it's not produced. So what's being produced right now is the sort of last generation of how would we describe it? Fossil fuel combustion engine vehicles, which are necessary for production. You can't produce without these sources of energy. And people will run out of materials. In fact, there'll be a huge market for second-hand materials as well. There'll be a huge market for used materials that can be reproduced. But the question is, who's going to have enough money to invest in this, because no one's going to have any cash because all the cash is disappearing as well in this so-called Great Reset, which is going to travel now at full speed, because it took 2 years to put all the dominoes in line. Yeah, it took 2 years to get all the people in all the right places to make all the right decisions to allow this to happen. And now that's what we are experiencing. The children of the World Economic Forum are now in power in all of the countries across Europe, and all the governments are working in what's called lockstep. They all do exactly the same thing at the same time because they're good little soldiers, because it's a nice little military operation. And everyone knows that if you want to take control of anything, you take control from the top, not the bottom. Right? And society is projected into society as things can filter from the bottom up, but it you know, like you can rob a bank. You go into a bank and you know that the bank robbers steal the money from the bank. That's the bottom, right? But the real control and takeover system is at the top, right? Not at the bottom. It's the financial markets and the industrial espionage, so to speak. And the only people left with any money are going to be the governments, but it's not going to be real money because it's going to be handed to them by the banking and financial infrastructure organizations. And the people are not going to have any money because they won't be able to trade, because they'll only get credits that are produced by the government, and the government will own everything. All basic necessities, for example, farming, right? All farming land is being bought up across Europe by either corporations or governments. Yeah. In fact, the British government has offered farmers money to stop farming. Yep. The British government has offered the farmers money to stop farming or to give the farms to the government because they don't want the farmers to produce anymore. And that's the madness of everything, where and it's all based on basic psychology, which is once you tell a person something 8 times and they only hear that one perspective 8 times, it fixes in their minds and they never ever 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 change, no matter what information they meet that contradicts that. So all you have to do is say to somebody, the best football team in the world is Manchester United, the best football team in the world is Manchester United, the best football team in the world is Manchester United 8 times, most specifically if the person is young. And then no matter what they hear for the rest of their life, they never, ever, ever form any other opinion except that the best football team is Manchester United, even if Manchester United lose all the time, because that is the way that human psychology works. The Bible teaches us about ego, the inability to admit that we're wrong about something. That's like most of the teachings in the Bible are, we can't progress in life because we can't admit that we made a mistake somewhere, and that it's very difficult to change our direction at any point in time. And it gives us rare examples of where this does happen in the book of Job, and the life of Paul in the New Testament give us examples of how you can do it, but it's extremely rare. Almost never happens. And so that's it. Government control the children in the schools. They tell them all one thing, this is it, and that's it. Nothing will ever change ever, because everything is fixed into one perspective. Unless the unexpected happens, and human history is full of unexpected events where we discover that the universe is bigger and stronger than man. Volcanoes explode, earthquakes happen. The unexpected is something that changes the way that we view the world. Anyway, back to the article. Shutdowns are happening due to the cost of energy prices. Energy prices shouldn't really be increasing as they are, because technology should have allowed us to reduce the cost of energy. I mean, it's logical, right? I mean, better quality technology should reduce the cost of energy by giving us the tools to make better decisions across society. A faster processing computer we should be able to program the computer to do more things for us and to solve more of the problems that we can't solve. So, yeah, I mean, what's going to happen? Here's a social question, right? What's going to happen in and around Banska Bystrica if the heavy industries close? And that's just not Banska. I mean, that's Zvolin, that's Ziarnad Hronom, that's Brezno, that's what. And also, if you note now, again, I'm not looking for this, but information comes to people who are not looking for it. You know, it's very weird, right? I know that the universities are closing down in Slovakia, right? I know, especially in Banska Bystrica, the universities, departments of the universities have closed. Even the whole arts university faculty just closed, right, within the last year. And all those people are out of work, and the students don't have anywhere to study. And why? Because money. Well, money's not really a problem, because you can print more, can you? I mean, if you want, you build whatever you want, right? Really, it's not. I mean, it will have an inflationary effect, but you can still build, and you can still support the arts. And if you don't have arts, you don't have society, because art is what makes things nice. Doesn't matter if it's a piece of furniture or a picture or a piece of music, you know, or even a nice design for a car. You know, when you're looking for your home, when you're building a home, you want nice things. Everyone wants nice things. They want nice windows and nice kitchen and a nice fridge, and you know, it's all science, technology, and art all sort of mixed together. And if you don't support art to be at the center of it, you don't have things like cathedrals, beautiful churches, and you know, all the great beautiful buildings of history were religious for some reason. It doesn't, I'm not talking about just Christianity. It could be Buddhism, could be Hinduism, It could be in the Muslim traditions. It could be Rastafarianism, whatever. But only those types of buildings had any great impact on society because they were beautiful, because they were spiritual. Um, if you leave the building to government, what you get is like a box,
Mm.
a square box with a tiny little window in the corner. Maybe that's what happens there. So, uh, really, really difficult time for everybody because the, how this impacts everybody's life is stress. The pressure of the external world and the economics of it creates a lot of stress for the
Mm.
individual. And human beings love to give each other stress. Here's my stress. And they just give it to each other. And and naturally creates a lot of competition and a lot of almost almost fighting for customers, right? Fighting for customers, fighting for money. And as the money supply contracts, which essentially is what is happening right now, the in in the lower levels and echelons of society, the money supply is contracted. It hasn't at the top because the governments are giving billions to the Ukraine, right?
Mm.
Yeah, so that there's money for the people at the top, and the money goes to the Ukraine and disappears. It just disappears. It just disappears because the Ukraine is a laundrette, basically. It's just a place to wash money and hide where it goes so that nobody knows. Even the international aid organizations say that less than 30%, and you can Google this, less than 30% of the money given by governments to the Ukraine can be traced.
Mm.
Less than 30% can be traced. They don't know where 70% of it goes. So and it doesn't stay in the Ukraine. It goes in and goes out very quickly. So so that yeah, all wars are bankers' wars. That's a very famous speech. That there's no faster way to make money than by lending money to both sides of a conflict. There you go. Bankers always play for both sides. And have done down throughout history. Now, just to add to what I've said, if you understand historical context of change, a lot of it is, this is going to sound really, really, really crazy, but historically it's true if you look at it. When there is a change in monarchy, there is global instability for a period before and a period after. Now, this is true down throughout history. Now, if you look at the British Commonwealth and the British monarchy, the British monarchy is in control of, I think it's 56 countries worldwide. Now, there's 200
Mm.
countries worldwide, and the British monarchy controls 56 of them, including large territories like Canada. Yeah, and so that's the Commonwealth. Now, if you look at what happened, say, go back to 1900 when Queen Victoria died. After Queen Victoria died, there was a great amount of instability that led to the First World War.
Mm.
A lot of social changes. And you can expect social changes for a period of about 10 years.